So here we are once again. Yesterday was September 11th, and may God continue to bless our country and pray for all of the victims of 9/11. I went into Upland City Hall in order to introduce myself to the city clerk and get the recordings that do exist on behalf of the recommendation and authorization of the Upland Chief of Police, Jeff Mendenhall, and Lieutenant Ansra, in regards to a conversation that I had with him prior to the day. So I go into City Hall and I attempt to make contact with the city clerk, who is not available till noon. So I go in to speak to the acting city manager, and the assistant tells me that there's no current city manager and that the job is currently upon the chief of police. So the very person that I'm going in to discuss putting claims against the police department, which the chief of police had advised me to do, if that was going to be my course of action, I would have to essentially go through him. So I was like, okay, send out emails to the mayor, the council members, the acting city manager, who is in fact the chief of police at the Upland Police Department, and the city attorney, everybody. And she's like, cool. So I'm like, okay, well, I need to get these records. So I filled out a requisition for, public records, which I was told was necessary. So I put times and dates and submitted it. And I said, hey, is it possible for me to get the business cards of all the people that hold these offices so that I can make notes and make sure that I know them by name and that I can contact them? So she's handing me off the cards. Guess who's in charge of the clerk's office? Chief Mendenhall's wife. So I have to wait and get records that could potentially be incriminating or even damning, or both, against the chief of police from his wife. Gee, I wonder how that's going to go. And in order to have any complaints presently, I have to go to the city manager, who's the chief of police. What a nice little merry-go-round. So, I made my requisitions and my own personal accusations, because at this point, unfortunately, it is personal. I'm in my civilian clothes. Basically, I'm not in uniform when I went in there. And then I decided to go back over to code enforcement, because we had a lovely little conversation a couple of days prior, which is also posted on YouTube, where she tells the police department that they tried to hand me paperwork and I shut the gate in their face, which is completely untrue. The actual events of that day were that they came up looking for the manager, and I radioed the manager and they weren't available. So I told them I had to close the gate in order to find the manager. And then at later said point in time, I was asked to go out and tell them they were trespassing. She never made any attempts to hand me any paperwork, but I will stipulate that at one point she did tell me to go over and pick up some paperwork that she had left on the ground. There was supposedly some type of court paperwork. So, and this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. This has nothing to do with me. I'm just a security officer, I'm not trying to hinder them from getting in, but my post orders stipulate that I have to do what my client says, as long as it's not against law. And people who throw paperwork on the ground and claim for it to be something, 2 manila packages, could be anything. It could be a bomb, But we're getting off track once again. So I went over and I showed a video and I said, look, when you talk to me, I take things very literal, especially when I'm in uniform, and I'm not going to stand for these accusations. And she's like, oh, well, this is true. I'm like, all right, so I'll be putting a claim against the head of code enforcement, because it turns out the person I was talking to that day is, in fact, the supervisor for code enforcement. So we got a lovely little circle going on right now, where in order for me to get these phone records, I have to get them from the chief of police's wife. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, that'll be really interesting. And then at one point in time, they had asked me if I wanted to talk to her. And I was like, unfortunately, I don't think that conversation is going to go very well, because, quite frankly, I've made accusations against her husband based on the conversations we've had on record. And now I'm requesting them from his wife, who I don't think is going to give them to me. But, I don't want to jump the gun. I don't want to, over speculate or throw my opinion out there and just have it wagging in the wind. it's just this ridiculousness just continues. It's just a nice, big, long, ridiculous mess, which unfortunately I find myself in the middle of. I've been doing that a lot lately, those deep sighs. So now I'm heading in, and I told him, I was like, I need to speak to the city attorney. I need to make sure that this situation is being taken seriously. And they can't give me the city attorney's number, and she's almost never in. And, I told him, I was like, you guys aren't giving me very many options here. Now I'm headed off to work again, the 12th, and I could get shot today. Police chief says it's not going to happen. Lieutenant Ansara says it's not going to happen. But the chief does admit in a recorded conversation that he feels that his officers may be taking things personal against me because of my conduct as a security guard. Which, like I said, there's a way that you do things, and this is not it. This can't be right. There's no way this can be right. Somebody is making a lot of mistakes, and if it's me, then I don't deserve to be a security guard, and I should be stripped of my permits, and I should be, not allowed to do this thing that I consider it an honor to do, and I'm okay with that. But the same thing should be said of law enforcement. You can look at my recordings, but this whole thing is ridiculous, and them trying to play it off like I just need to step aside and be a good little boy and listen to them. I don't work for them. I work with them, when they're not threatening me and trying to get me fired, or inadvertently trying to get me fired, or their actions in some way posing a threat to my employment and my reputation. And, just yesterday I had a lieutenant call me up and accuse me of saying that I was going to shoot his officers. And I think he set me up, because he tells me, it's being recorded. And as I recall, and like I said, this is just what I remember from the conversation. It's not verbatim, but it is very close to what was said by him. As I recall, you said you're going to shoot my officers. And I was like, I told him straight up, fuck that. And then he tried to keep talking over me. I'm like, no, you just, that we're going to talk about this. You can't just say something like that and just let it go. And now I'm thinking about Frozen song, and my mind is everywhere, and I need to get focused for work, because when I get to my post, I need to be in unpersonal mode. I need to switch off. I need to, what's the military term? See, that's how messed up I am right now, dude, in my head. I can't even remember terms that I grew up with. Be debriefed. I need to debrief myself. So that's what's going on. And again, the lieutenant tells me yesterday in the conversation, hey, we're coming in. And I put $20 on it, and now I'm out $20 because the lieutenant didn't do what he said he was going to do. So now I owe one of my fellow workers $20 because he bet me that they were just talking a bunch of crap, which apparently was true. Which is not surprising. I should have known better. So I guess a fool and his money are soon parted. What's the purpose of this recording? Oh, yeah, the city. Wow, isn't it nice? City manager, acting chief of police. The person in charge of the records that I need in order to move forward is his wife. Whee! This ought to be fun. Pending protests. Now, a pending protest against the city, because I've yet to receive a phone call from anybody, from the mayor down to his council members who are supposed to be getting this information. My next little recorded interview heading off to work should be interesting. I don't even know what to entitle this one. It'll probably just be a question mark city or something like that, because quite frankly, whatever. We'll just wait and see what happens, and the silliness continues. Oh, my wife did a check on this Jake guy, and supposedly he's not just some officer. Apparently he holds a title within his own department other than officer. So it turns out this guy is actually, not just some schmo that's, new on the force or mentally impaired in some way. Apparently this guy, should know better. I thought I was just dealing with some guy that just talks a lot, and maybe he just hasn't been informed or briefed or educated in some mannerisms that when you say things to people you don't know, in general, when you say things, they are statements. whether intended or not. Everything I'm saying right now is a statement. Every single thing, every action is a statement, whether I intend it to be or not. You know? I could be like, hey, Frank, my imaginary friend, what's up? Oh, nothing, Justin. Well, there's a statement. Even, I don't even know where I'm going with this. Today is going to be a real confusing day for me. I need to get in my mindset. I got an hour to get myself ready for work here, to get rid of all this personal stuff and devoid my mind and emotions of anything so that I can do my job correctly. And I think that law enforcement should take some advice from that and learn how to do that, you know? And if and when they come and see me at work and I have to engage them or they have to engage me in a conversation, you'll see the differentiation between my mannerisms now, which undoubtedly are personal, and my mannerisms on posts. I doubt that you'll even be able to tell that there was a previous problem, because I get myself right before I start work. Believe it. So, hopefully I don't get shot today, and I'll talk to whoever's still listening later.